Thank you so much for sticking to Y254 TV. Welcome back. This is the Power Talk Show, and I am your host, Cheryl Blessing. We are having a conversation on living within your means. It's about money and lifestyle and how we can live within our means. And I'm joined here by Frederick and Winnie, who are giving me some amazing insights on this conversation. But before we get back into the conversation, I want to engage with you. Go to our platforms at Y254 right now. Our hashtag is the Power Talk Show, and let me know why you think people live beyond their means. Why do you think people go out of their means? Why do you think people want to live lavish and live very extravagantly, knowing that they cannot sustain the lifestyle? Why do you personally do that sometimes? I want us to get into this conversation because we have been talking about what living within your means is, and we have established that it's about living within your income. Kama you're getting 10,000 monthly, you budget for 10,000 monthly, and you figure out everything from your investments, from your expenses, your utilities, which are your bills. If you have any major things you need to pay, you need to budget that within the income that you're getting. So we are talking about the way people get into debt sometimes, because that's a thing of living out of your means already. For you to tap into debt, it means that you have a fixed budget, but your budget and the income is not enough for your expenses. So you need to have some extra supplementary money. So instead of getting an extra job, people opt for getting into debt, which is something that is not sustainable long term. So how can we get away from the culture of taking loans? Winnie, how can we get away from that debting culture where all of a sudden I need to fuliza 1,000 bob. All of a sudden Mshwari needs to come through with 5,000. How can I get away from that culture of constantly taking out this money loans, the banking loans and other loans?
I would start by asking, why exactly are we taking that loan? Why exactly do we need that fuliza loan?
Yeah.
So you will find I will probably want to fuliza because maybe I cannot pay rent. Okay? You will probably see your friend drive a car and you're like, okay, if my salary can afford me X from my bank, maybe I want to get a car because my friend has a car. So you really have to ask yourself, why exactly do you want to access that debt? And then it also comes down to, what does that budgeting space look like? Because if you're taking fuliza to, say, offset an expense, then that means there's a problem in that space, right?
Yeah.
So you want to probably figure exactly why are your expenses over and above your income, and that's what happens. Now, that's how you get into a proper debt trap. Because if your expenses are more than your income, more often than not, you'll find someone is actually in debt and they cannot sustain that debt. Yeah, so you pay fuliza today, you get your salary, you pay fuliza, I think you pay, whichever mobile loan. So you're constantly in a cycle of debt. So up until you understand why you want to secure that debt, then that will now answer that question. And if you really want to secure that debt, do you want to maybe find out better ways in which you can be able to probably plan your money better?
Yeah.
Speak to a professional, see how you can be able to live within that budget which you need to live within. Then that means you will not need to actually access debt. But I think maybe now for Fred, who's in business, maybe he can tell us for like people who need to access bigger debts or
First, how do you get out of it? And also tell us how can you assess and say, this is good debt? This is debt that I need and it's going to make me more money, as opposed to debt that, oh my God, I have to pay this money. How can we assess that and say, this is good debt, I need it because it's going to finance something that's going to make me more money? Or if it's not, how can you get away from debting?
It's just as you've said. If you're not taking debt to multiply the amount, then pay back, then just don't take it. Just learn to tell yourself, no, I want this chair. No, you don't have. You don't have the money to buy it. Wait. Just tell yourself, wait and no. I think that is the best answer I would give to anybody, in simple terms. Just learn to tell yourself, no, I can't afford this. Wait. Oh, well, let me save up for this. Or let me invest some cash. You can even put aside, maybe unajiambia, let me set a goal. I want to go to Mombasa na pia mimi niringeka watu wengine. It's not really that expensive. If you just put each day, like every month, 1,500 shillings. every month. Within a year, si inakwaga December, you'll have around approximately more than 22,000 and above.
Yeah.
You'll go to Mombasa for 3 days. You'll
Yeah.
take all those photos that unataka kuonyesha watu on social media. So it's all about planning and telling yourself, no, if you can't afford it, just leave it. Kama unachukua hii loan and it's not for business, just don't take it.
I like that.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
a good debt is the one that you can be able to pay comfortably. Ile debt unaweza amko sema no, I'll just be able to service this and it's fine. Bad debt is the one hata your salary ikiingia. Most of these people unabaki hata you don't have even money
You
for
even
rent.
avoid.
Yes,
The
hata
creditors call you and you're, oh my God.
each time you receive a phone call,
Inakata.
All that debt.
Then get another
then
loan.
get another loan. You see,
Yeah.
and when once you're trapped in that cycle, it actually becomes even difficult. And some people are
Yeah.
even demotivated even to work.
Yeah.
Unapata mtu, some people are even depressed. No wonder when something else inaingia tu hivi kidogo in your life, yenye hauko umepangia, tuseme maybe your parent ama your mom or anybody anakuwa tu mgonjwa. Now you can't afford it. Like you're
Yeah.
now in really bad debt. Kumbuka you have a debt in your bank account. So salary ikikuja, you're almost getting like 20% of your salary.
Yeah, because
So-
it's being paid. And you know, those are some of the things that get people into bad credit without even realizing. Because now you're becoming dependent on these loans. And another thing I've come across in my life was if you can't afford to buy things marambili at the same time, don't even look at it. If it's this table and you want it, you should be able to afford 2 of these tables
Yes,
right
at
now
the same
without
time.
flinching, without your accounts being affected. But if you can't, then you need to step back and think about it. Because sometimes we want things because we didn't have them, or they look good in the moment, but we have not really thought about how is this serving me.
And
You know.
and also maybe just to add on it, and what is if I'm buying that thing, will it be something that will require constant maintenance?
Yeah.
That will always be, money will always be coming out of my pocket to service it?
And I like that because that's taking me into the next bit of this conversation, which is about investments. Whereas some people confuse liabilities for assets. And they think, oh, I have a car, so I'm
Yes,
secure. But
you're
they don't
secure.
understand that the value keeps going down. And you've brought around an important conversation that I wanted to talk about. But before we get into that, let us read some of the comments you guys have shared on our platforms. So we have, I believe this is from Facebook. We have Julius Morega, who's tuned in from Nyeri Town. Thank you. Otieno Vincent says, dream come true. And that's an answer to why do you think people live beyond their means. And Otieno is saying it's because maybe you want to make your dreams come true. Pesa Nyingi Media says societal pressure. Everyone wants to live according to how and what others live. Kama yule anaweza, kwa nini mimi nisiweze, the whole narrative. I like that. Anis Bantu Alara says, we're living in a society where fake has more power than original. That's why if you try and be real, people will hate you. If you try and be fake, utapendwa sana. So fake is the new normal. Bantu watching us from Gong, thank you so much. And I like that because I like that people have given us, these are very practical reasons as to why people live beyond their means. People say, I'm trying to make my dreams come true because there's pressure from society. There's this fake lifestyle. People are faking their lifestyles. Like, it takes me back to the story about the shrewd, the car dealer. I don't want to mention any names because I think we're all kind of familiar with the story. He was driving a Porsche, flying out, taking private jets and doing all these things with all these other people around. And you know, there was that pressure of young men were thinking, oh my God, so I can't get Instagram buddies because I don't have money. And then if you say something, are you driving a Porsche? Do you have a Porsche? But people don't understand. If I buy a Range Rover today and I buy it for 10 million, by the end of the month, it's probably 9.5 million. And I have to factor in the expenses as a mechanic. I have to factor in fueling. I have to factor in just other maintenance. And it's really a liability. Versus if I buy, brings you back to the conversation about people who don't even stay in their homes and they're paying rent. If you convert this home into an Airbnb and you have people paying you to stay there, and then when you know you're going to be around, you've blocked out those dates. So how can we invest in such a way that is fast, practical, and realistic, it builds towards the wealth that we have. Because Winnie, you've said so many people are getting into that. We want to build generational wealth. How can we invest practically in things that are going to give us more money than take away from us?
Yeah. So how I go about the conversation about investing is, first we need to figure what are your goals. Okay? Because you could have 10,000 today and you tell me, Winnie, I want to place this money somewhere. Well and good, we can set up a money market fund, place the money, and it will grow. But you won't feel the need to continuously pour money into that fund because you don't understand the final objective for why you want to invest. So let's look through these goals. Let's say you want to own a Porsche. Well and good. But do you really need to own that Porsche now? You know, at what point, like we call it like an investor life cycle. So are you 18? Are you 45? Are you 50? Are you 80? At what age do you need to be driving a Porsche? And you could drive at 18. We are not saying you can't, but you need to figure what are your goals? Why do you want to achieve those goals? And then now we can align the solutions to the specific objectives. Because there's very many investment solutions out here, but there are some which are short term, some are medium term, and some are long term. So if you want to say set up an emergency fund, I wouldn't place you in an investment that goes for, say, 20 years, say like a Eurobond, for example. I wouldn't do that because then it won't serve the purpose. If it's an emergency fund, I would set you up in a money market fund. If it's, say, you want to pay school fees for your kid, I would look for something that gives you higher returns and can even pay you quarterly so that you can be able to pay school fees every other term. So the solutions are many, but they need to be targeted towards specific objectives. Now, which is what now we do, because we sit down, we look through what your goals are, then we're able to now help you figure this solution can achieve this specific goal. This solution can buy you that car in X number of years. This solution can be able to give you a retirement fund.
I like that. So you have to start from your goals.
Yes.
You have to figure out what do I want at the end of this. Because so many people start saving, start investing without understanding what's the point. Because you'll put away money, at the end of the year you have 100,000. Because I came across someone who said she just put away some money, ikafika 100, and I think the point for her was to show that she can actually accumulate that much. So it motivated her to do more and more. But if you don't have a goal, you'll get to 100 and then you take all that money, you kunywa it. So what's the point? You know? So how can we, Frederick, what can we do to make sure that our investments make sense to us? The money that I'm putting away makes sense. It makes sense to what I'm trying to build long term.
First of all, let me just recap a bit. You see, let me just maybe process the whole entire thing from where the problem starts. So you see, one of our biggest problem right now, we want a lifestyle that is so high. That is the first thing. And the second thing, we have something called black tax. I don't know if you ever heard of it, black tax.
We've actually had a conversation on black tax before.
You see, most of our problem begins with black tax. You see, once you've already figured out how to deal with black tax, umesema I don't want black tax, and I feel like our parents pia wanafaa kutupea nafasi, just to grow, sisi kivyetu. Of course, there's ukianza job, there's that period, maybe 1 or 2 years, where you're supposed to lipa that black tax. No umalizane nayo, then that is when ukishamaliza, you need now to say no again. When I'm no, mama, I need to start now doing this. I need now to start thinking of my life. So let me now just start investing. And just like I said, you can invest as little as 100 shillings squeezy. Nowadays, you can invest like 100, 2,000, 3,000, depending on your capabilities. And make sure you can even lock the amount, Basi. If you feel tempted, just lock the amount and sema, I won't be able to access this money. Now that is teaching yourself financial discipline the hard way. Say, unasema, I won't be able to access this money for 5 years. Lakini I am, to be practical, let's say a year. A year is fine. I won't be able to access this money for a year. So now then you save for a whole year, and then now, kama you have something that you had in mind and other stuff, that is when now you start building those other stuff, or you want to ingia in something else, you invest in things that you want.
I like that. Because you've brought about black tax. We've had a conversation on it. And just to remind you, in case you missed that episode, black tax is where your family requires you. You're expected.
Yeah.
Send money to your auntie, send money to your shosho, send money to your parents. You're constantly being required to pay because it's like paying for success.
Yes, you're paying for success.
Yeah, because you're
them
employed.
schooling you, yes.
You're employed and I'm at home. Please send me money. Nilikubeba when you were a kid.
And I don't know why all of a
Yeah.
sudden, even if they're working, they now become cashless.
Yeah.
Even if they're
Now
working.
please send money for that
Stima
chama.
tokens, yes.
And it happens a lot.
Yes.
So it takes also, that's a conversation you can find on our platforms on YouTube in case you've missed that. But I like that. So that's one thing that we need to get away from because
Yeah.
black tax eats up a lot of money.
And a lot of investments too.
Yeah, eventually when you don't have anything, those are the same guys who'll say, Kwani, what were you doing all these years?
Yes, they are the
You
first
weren't
ones to start
working,
pointing fingers. Why did you not buy this plot of land?
Yeah, like what's wrong with you? So let's touch on taxes a bit. I want us to touch on taxes and then forms of insurance before we wrap up the conversation because time is not on our side. So many people do not really understand how taxes work. They pay the business taxes, our own individual taxes. We really don't understand. So I want us to, Winnie, just explain to us when you're negotiating even for salary and you're told, do you want it in gross or net? And you say, I want this. And you don't understand that that is before your taxes are cut.
Taxes, yes.
So, no, just then you can touch on how we can stay on top of paying our taxes. Because sometimes we have income and then we go and file nil and then all of a sudden we have a case of tax evasion because we don't understand. Or I'm a business owner and I have to pay some turnover tax, but I'm not aware of how to go about that. So how can we make sure that our taxes and they're paid and we're right with the government so that when we're doing all these other businesses, we can't come all of a sudden we have billions to pay in the taxes and the interest that have accumulated.
I see. I think I would say just like with everything else, there's professionals in that space. Because yes, while I do investments, I am not a tax expert. I understand taxation when it comes to investments that people make, both locally and offshore. But when it comes to like business income tax and things like that, I think it's important to speak to tax experts. And nowadays, I think the market has a really huge array of tax experts. So you can be able to reach out to, and they don't have to be very pricey. Very many young people here have done CPAs and things like that and are doing their own consultancies. So you can reach out to such people, talk to them, let them help you understand the Kenyan landscape in terms of taxes, because every other day there's something new coming up in this country in terms of taxation. So I would say speak to an expert.
I like that, because perhaps you can consult with people who are familiar.
Absolutely.
And you know, so that we get an understanding. But Frederick, perhaps also tell us, when we are talking about income tax and the pay, when we are being asked about gross versus net, you were in an interview, how do you, how can you know, gani ni before tax, gani ni after tax, and then how do you maintain that? Also with, perhaps you can add on people who are content generators, freelancers who are being asked to generate e-teams receipts. So how can we make sure that we are on top of those things when it comes to KRA?
Taxes, funny enough, young people don't really understand the dynamics of tax and the entire payee, net and gross. You see, when you tell them those terms, they feel like that those are jargons from KRA and they start even shaking. Yeah, it's a trap. KRA wants to trap me. You see, and even when they are even negotiating for salaries, some mtu atasema, I want a salary of 60,000. That is just salary made. He's not asking, like he's not doing the math. Okay, nimepewa salary of 60,000. What is my tax? What am I going to pay in tax? Maybe nimepata a salary of 45,000, for example. So the individual doesn't know that if you're getting a salary of maybe 45,000, you're going to pay a pay of maybe 17.3%, right? Where your employer pays the 0.03% and you yourself you pay around 17%. So mtu hajui hiyo. So with a salary of 45,000, maybe just mtu hajui kwamba I'm going to pay a salary of 17,000 and I'll go home maybe with around 35,000. So mtu hata na budget with 45,000 without putting in mind, hey, there is tax to be paid. So hata akipata some, shockingly some, hata akipata that salary, they will even go back to the HR. You told me my salary was going to be 45,000. Why am I getting 36,000?
Yeah.
So now you have to sit them down and start breaking. Yeah, you know, you have to pay this, you have to pay insurance, health. It was also deducted, NSSF and stuff, SHA. So it's just, I think getting to educate, just getting the education and consulting the right people with the tax nini, I think will really help a lot of people. And also understanding how to maneuver within the tax bracket and tax system. How do you compensate for the deducted amount? How do you claim your money? Maybe hapa. You see, there are some people who wanaendaga hata kwa supermarket and they demand those receipts.
And
so,
they do.
Yes. So when you're going
and it's about understanding, because you know, with most people who are wealthy, they understand the tax systems.
Yes.
So they understand the loopholes.
Yes, if it doesn't have
because
receipts.
there's a point when you buy something at that point, you get a tax write-off.
Yes.
And so unaingia mwaka mpya with that, because I think I came across that in a show.
There's some people who are
you have to buy in December to get the write-off for that year. We need to get experts. So as we wrap up the conversation, because I want us to tackle, let me direct the question of insurance to Winnie. Just tell us briefly, what are some of the insurance policies that we can explore? Because like even life insurance, there are people who don't know that you can use your life insurance when you're still alive, and they don't even understand education policies and all those other things. So just briefly tell us about some insurance the options that we can explore, and then Frederick, to wrap up, you'll tell us why some people still remain broke. So let me start with Winnie, and then we'll wrap it up with Frederick.
Okay. So insurance is quite vast, and you will find there's so many different categories of insurance. So there's life insurance, there's domestic insurance, there's medical insurance, there's motor vehicle insurance, quite a number of insurance. And of course, if you're thinking, I mean, if you need to go to hospital, then you need medical insurance, definitely. So again, for that, you just need to be able to understand what your age is, what your limits are, then you're able to get a quotation and you can see what premiums you would need to pay. When it comes to life insurance, now that's a whole other ball game altogether. We might need another conversation. Because it's quite vast, and life insurance is really protecting your next of kin. Okay. So, and that's why you hear so many cases of, I've put you as my next of kin, shortly you're out. You know, because I know this is how much I would get from your payoff once, say, you pass on, God forbid. So you also need to understand the different types of life insurance, because there's term life, there's whole of life. It's a bit of, there's a lot of jargon in that space, but again, speak to a professional, speak to a wealth advisor, speak to a financial advisor. You'll be able to understand, say, if you have kids, for example, especially if you have children, it's really, really important to consider life insurance. Because then, you know, 18 years, 25 years from now, your kids will be at a certain age and they can be able to get a lump sum, which can then sustain them for the rest of their lives. So speak to a professional, speak to someone who understands the nitty-gritties of insurance, because you also find there's a lot of fine print in insurance. Yes.
But I like that. So that's just to touch on it. But we need to explore more. We need to get into, I want us to have this conversation also in length at some point. But that's true. That's why sometimes you come across someone at your trust fund baby. Kumbe the parents started saving when they were 1 year old. So Frederick, just to wrap up the conversation, tell us, why do you think some people are still trapped in debt? Why do you think people live beyond their means?
Why are people living within the still trapped up in debts? One, social media. Please, if you can, please just stay away from social media. If you're following those influential people who are driving cars, imagine wealth doesn't make noise. Elon Musk, have you ever seen Elon Musk posting about he has been to Diani or he's been to Hawaii or Tokyo? Wealth doesn't make noise. So if that is your problem, then just step away from social media. Start with social media. eliminate anything that gives you pressure. Your parents, black tax, say no. Social media, si lazima ukwe on social media. Imagine you can be on social media and still follow other useful things, because the algorithms give you whatever you like and follow. So just unfollow the things that you want to say no to, and just start following things that make sense to your life at that particular moment. And there are seasons in life. You can't afford it now. But if you just give yourself time, you'll still be able to afford it later. So just give yourself time. And si lazima ukwe kwa deni, just avoid debt. Debt is just something that traps you. Live within your means. Just live within your means. That is what I would say. Live within your means and learn to save. Learn to save, because you never know tomorrow. Have set aside some emergency fund if you have to. Just reward yourself. See, that is what you tell people when you come. Oh, hii pesa usinvest yote. Don't starve yourself. Just set aside like 2 Gs, 3 Gs. Unasema, hii 3 Gs, I have 3 weeks. Easy 3 weeks, I'll be going out kila siku with 1,000. And imagine with a budget of 1,000, but you can still go to a restaurant and eat whatever you want, and even stay out till late vile unataka.
I like that, because kuna hidden gems. Hidden gems ni nyingi sana. So I really like that conversation, because we need to utilize the resources that we have to make sure that we have long money. Instead of instant gratification, you still are going to achieve all that later. So let me read some of the last comments that we have on social media before we wrap it up. From Facebook, from Instagram, sorry, we have Call Me Jeshuran, who says, I think it's because they have created a certain image around people, so they want to keep up to it. So why not pay a price for it? But I think they realize it after they've stretched out so far that coming back looks like a hurdle. My thoughts. And that's very informative. That's a good point of view. We have from Facebook, Zeki Sex, who says he's watching us. Thank you. Step our GGLD. Amesema subjected to hardship. That's one of the reasons why people live beyond their means. And David DeWalker says they are after fame, which stresses them mentally, economically, and socially. It's better to keep a low profile. That's good. So I think that's touched on every single thing that we've talked about. We have basically, we've understood that living within your means that it lives within your income bracket. You have to allocate money for your bills, which are the most important things. You have to allocate money for your expenses, and you have to allocate money, importantly, for your investments. Because you may want to go to the high-end restaurant today. You may want to take that trip today, but is it going to be sustainable for you tomorrow? If it doesn't make sense tomorrow, you have to wait till you're able to comfortably enjoy all those things. Because with life, all these things still come to us. Nothing is running away, and better things are being made. So that is the end of this conversation for today. I think it's very important to live within your means, because long term, you're able to get everything else. That's it for us. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation. I hope you've gotten something away from this conversation. We're going to have a repeat of this tomorrow between 1 and 2 p.m. So stay tuned for that in case you've missed it. And it's also going to be up on YouTube, so you can share it with your friends. You can refer to it later. So next week is the day before Valentine's, so we're going to have another amazing conversation. I can't wait to see you then, and tell a friend to tune in. That's it for us for today. Have a lovely evening. It was such a pleasure to have you. I am Cheryl Blessing, and this has been the Power Talk Show.